Okay, so today we're going deep on something pretty radical,
Yeah.
a world without money.
No money at all.
We've got a ton of material from you guys, thought experiments from philosophers or anthropological studies of like different cultures and even some blueprints for how a future economy without money would actually function.
Right.
So what we really want to unpack in this deep dive is like, what are the potential benefits, but also like the huge obstacles to actually living in a world without any kind of currency.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating to look at the motivation behind this whole idea.
Yeah.
A lot of the sources argue that money, while it's convenient, is a big reason why we have so much inequality in the world. It
Yeah.
kind of concentrates wealth and power in the hands of a few.
Yeah.
And the thought is that if we get rid of money, we could start distributing resources based on what people actually need rather than how much money they have.
Right. So it's like this needs-based distribution model,
Exactly.
which is super interesting.
Yeah, and it's not just about fairness. Some sources suggest that abolishing money could lead to way more collaboration.
Oh, really?
Imagine communities where people share their skills and resources just because it helps everyone,
Right.
not because they're trying to make a buck.
Yeah, because it benefits the entire community.
Exactly, and there's even this argument that without money, there's less opportunity for corruption.
Yeah, less incentive to like hoard resources or cheat the system or
Well,
something.
exactly.
So it's like this idealistic vision.
It is.
But is there any evidence that this could actually work?
Well, there are some examples from the past.
Oh, yeah.
Anthropological studies of indigenous communities that thrived for centuries without using money as we know it.
Right.
They relied on things like barter systems, communal sharing, or even these really elaborate gift economies.
So like instead of money determining your status, it was like how much you contributed to the community.
Exactly. Your social standing was based on your generosity and your willingness to share.
Right. And we actually see this in some modern contexts too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like at Burning Man.
The perfect example.
Right. Everyone's contributing and sharing, and it's this temporary society.
Yeah, it's like a microcosm of a moneyless world.
But the big question is like, could we scale that up to a global level?
Right.
Because the logistics get really tricky.
They do.
Like imagine trying to trade your surplus grain for medical care.
Yeah, that gets complicated fast.
Right. And that's one of the main arguments against abolishing money.
Exactly.
Like the inefficiencies of barter are just too great.
Right. You need to find someone who has what you need and needs what you have.
Yeah, the double coincidence of wants problem.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of motivation.
Right.
Without financial incentives, who's going to do those essential but maybe not so glamorous jobs?
Totally. Like who's going to take out the trash or clean the sewers?
Exactly. Will passion alone be enough to motivate people?
And what about innovation?
Yeah, that's a big one.
So much of our technological progress has been driven by the desire for profit.
Right.
Would we just stagnate without that incentive?
And then there's the global aspect.
Right.
Our world is so interconnected through trade and finance.
Dismantling the whole monetary system would be hugely disruptive.
It would be a seismic shift.
So the challenges are definitely massive.
They are.
But some of your sources actually propose alternative systems,
Right.
like Jacques Fresco's Venus project.
Yeah, a really intriguing idea.
It's like this resource-based economy where everything is tracked and distributed based on needs.
And managed by some really advanced technology.
Which sounds incredibly complex.
It does.
But it shows that people are actually thinking about how we could function without money.
And there are historical examples, too.
Oh,
Like during the Great Depression,
Yeah.
communities all over the world started using local barter systems.
so they kind of adapted when the traditional monetary system collapsed.
Exactly. It
Yep.
shows that humans are capable of finding creative solutions.
But these were temporary measures,
Right.
not necessarily models for a permanent moneyless society,
True.
which brings us to a really fundamental question.
Yeah.
What really motivates us?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, money is a powerful motivator,
Absolutely.
but there's also research suggesting that we're driven by other things.
Like purpose recognition, the desire to contribute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we remove money, how do we tap into those intrinsic motivations?
Right. How do we create systems that encourage people to work, innovate, and even be entrepreneurial without the promise of financial reward?
Because that's what we'd need to build a truly functional, moneyless society.
Absolutely.
So it seems like the big takeaway here is that we're caught between two powerful forces.
Yeah.
On one hand, this vision of a more equitable and collaborative world.
Right.
And on the other hand, these immense practical challenges.
And the question of how to motivate people in a completely different way.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder if we as humans are even capable of making that kind of shift.
It's a profound question.
And it really challenges us to think about what we truly value.
What if our desire to contribute and be recognized is actually stronger than our desire for money?
And if that's the case, how do we build a world that deflects those values?
A world where those motivations are enough to sustain us.
Definitely something to ponder.
Yeah, something to think about.
That's all the time we have for our deep dive today.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time.
Keep diving.